Are Republican senators any more worried about the big infusion of QAnon into their caucus than those in the House seem to be? Well, let's start off with, well, we're gonna get to Lindsey Graham. We'll move on to that. But I think possibly worse here is Jim Jordan. So he's gonna be asked about the fact that this is taking over the party. Here's what he has to say.
She is a problem for our party.
Congressman, your response.
No one's condoning the remarks that she made. I've not heard any Republicans say that those were appropriate. So that's not the issue. The issue is once this starts, tell me where it ends, Sandra. Where does it, who's next? I mean, look, think of the cancel culture, Sandra. I don't want is people canceling everyone else. That is the most dangerous thing happening in our country today.
Okay, so I saw that video on Twitter posted by Aaron Rupar, and Aaron Rupar pointed out over 3,000 people died from COVID yesterday. So arguably more dangerous still than cancel culture. But anyway, Yasmin, think of the cancel culture. I mean, if a woman who talks about shooting Nancy Pelosi in the head is stripped from a committee assignment, where does it end?
Yeah, that seems to be kind of a cop-out that we're hearing a lot of lately, a lot of reasons for not reining some of these people in or not. I get that it's a slippery slope as far as censoring voices, right? There is a difference when it comes to the government and private platforms, of course. But then you also have the case, which is completely unprecedented, that a president and his followers have incited an insurrection at the Capitol and endangered all of our lawmakers. That's a problem and it needs to be addressed. And in the past, whenever we've had instances of terror, domestic terrorism in the United States, they've done things to prevent it from happening in the future. They've taken action against it. And this, I don't know why they're so reluctant to do anything about it. And they keep using cancel culture and censorship as their excuse. And I don't think that's good enough.
Well, look, I think, and I've been saying this for a while, they want every issue to tie back to cancel culture because cancel culture is a thing that you can talk about hour after hour and do nothing. Like nothing gets done. That doesn't raise anyone's wages. That doesn't give anyone health insurance. That doesn't stop any war, but it's a thing that you can get all worked up about. It's convenient for them. But specifically to him, I want to ask him a question. So he says, where does it stop? More importantly, Jim Jordan, where does it begin? Because you don't want it to begin here. You think that her approving of threats to hang Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton are okay. Saying that Hillary Clinton ate a child's face and drank her blood after raping her, that's okay. The space laser is okay. The constant anti-Semitism and racism is okay. None of that is enough for any consequences. So if this isn't where it starts, where does it start? What would Marjorie Greene have to say for it to be okay to strip her of a committee position? Because it has to start somewhere. There are consequences for actions in some parts of our life, and traditionally that has even existed in government as well. Was Jim Jordan aghast at Katie Hill being pressured to resign because of her affair? Was Jim Jordan like stumping for Al Franken to run again because why should he have been taken out of office and all of that? Like Steve King, after all of his racism and his white supremacy and all of that, he lost his committee assignments. I thought that was a perfectly good place to start. Maybe we should talk about the start before we worry about the end. Should there be any consequences for anything? And if not, how do you have a functioning government? If Marjorie Greene can walk on the House floor and give a speech saying, I want everyone at home to grab their guns, come in here and start shooting Dems, would that be enough? Would that be enough? And how far do we have to get towards that? Because she's done it in the past. That is already a thing that she's expressed support for. So I don't know, it's such cowardice. He, like the rest of them, he doesn't want QAnon people to turn on him and have him be primary. That's all it is. And he's willing to risk AOC being shot or Ilhan Omar being gunned down if that means he doesn't get primaried out by someone even crazier than he is the next time.
Yeah.
And let's also really fast bear in mind that a guy who's talking about how there shouldn't be consequences got away with obscuring and stopping the quest for justice back at the college he worked at when kids were being sexually molested. There were no consequences there. That would have been a good time for it to start, perhaps, some kind of consequences. This is a guy who's dodged consequences his whole life. So at least he's being consistent here.
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on a really good point that it's all so nebulous, right? It's really easy. I mean, we saw it the entire time when Trump was in office, everything that he said that sounded crazy, they all said, oh, he's just joking. That's just a sense of humor. He didn't really mean it. He's not gonna do it. But then at the same time, he is inciting all these people. He is defending QAnoners and all these insurrectionists and all these, really terrible groups of people, the Proud Boys and things like that. So the effects are very obvious, but it's also nebulous enough to where you can make the argument that this is not directly related to that. Yeah. And that's the problem. And in our legal system, especially, a lot of things come down to motive and what were you trying to do when this happened. But again, it's hard to prove these things. And if you don't have a good attorney, then you can just say, it is what it is.
Exactly. And look, we're not putting her on trial. We're just saying maybe she shouldn't be setting education policy when she believes that kids are faking their deaths.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.